What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bios3 Raw TV. Today we're going to talk about the difference between muscle protein synthesis and continuous muscle growth. Those are two different things. I think a lot of people are getting confused. And it really kind of bothers me because the information is there to understand this stuff, but just like Rob Bailey had made a video recently called Fuck the Economy. It wasn't really about the economy. It was about the fact that people don't try hard enough. And I think people don't try hard enough to actually understand this shit. They just kind of glance through it. Believe me, it's hard for me to understand because I have ADD, but I really want to understand it. And there's a lot of punk-ass bitches out there who like to talk shit like they know what they're talking about because they know a few big words. But they don't actually understand what the fuck they're talking about. They've read a little bit online. I think online really can fuck things up and make it easier for you to screw things up than to actually understand things. Now, we're going to talk about how muscle growth occurs and how muscle protein synthesis occurs. Now, muscle protein synthesis is not the same thing as actual continual muscle growth. And you know that because muscle protein synthesis can happen in the body every single day, but you cannot gain a single fucking pound on the scale. You cannot make any gains, but you're still synthesizing muscle tissue from protein. So there's completely different things. Now, the bioactive peptides, which have been talked about in BioGrow, can cause the muscle protein synthesis, but without the actual training itself, you will not get continuous muscle gains. They go hand in hand. They have to be used in conjunction. Now, let's break it down to and I'll try to understand or try to explain to you guys how muscle growth actually occurs, continuous muscle growth. Now, the body will adapt, but it will not adapt unless it has a reason or something to adapt to. Now, some people say continuous progression, etc., etc. Here's how it works. Your muscles will fire all the fibers, not all the fibers, but it'll fire the fibers one after one after one after groups after groups after groups while you're lifting a weight. And it'll fire it over and over again until it fires so many of the fibers and they get so exhausted that they can no longer fire and the muscle stops. Now, there's a metabolic process, a metabolic response that happens, or metabolic stress that happens while that's happening before that muscle fails. And it's telling you, stop, it hurts, stop, it hurts, stop, it hurts, stop, it hurts. Eventually, it stops. That's failure. That metabolic response right there is a trigger for the body to grow muscle, to get stronger. That is the one and only trigger that there is to absolutely, positively get the muscle to grow and adapt. It's the one thing. Now, a lot of people say, well, I don't train to fail, I don't get gains. But you guys probably train your ass off for like 2 hours. And those last 3 sets that you're doing that you basically can't do anymore, that you're like, oh man, I got nothing left. Those are the ones that's triggering muscle growth, okay? As long as your central nervous system and muscles are recovering, you will grow. But you now have to go back in the gym the next day and stimulate it just as hard, if not harder, okay, to get the gains to continue, which is not what happens. People don't progressively go in there and challenge themselves and try harder day after day after day to get better. If they do, they get better results faster. Why? Because you are sending that signal to the brain to grow the muscle, okay, which the brain signal then sends it to the muscle, to grow the muscle to be bigger and stronger for the next time that it has to lift those weights and be better and more efficient at lifting those same weights. Okay, that's how that works. Now, there was a study done, and people love to quote this study, and this is the perfect example between continuous muscle growth and muscle protein synthesis. There was a study done where they had given steroids to people that trained, that didn't train, blah, 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 and everybody points to this one study and says, see, you can take steroids and sit on your fucking ass and still gain muscle. They help you cheat, they make it easier, blah, blah, blah. Here's the situation, and I don't even know why I didn't explain this before, because I just figured everybody knew this, but there's a lot of dumb motherfuckers out there. The daily stress of your daily activities, whether it be doing laundry, walking up and down the stairs, there may be enough stimulus because your body's adapted to doing that, that it's very possible calorically, if you have been in a deficit long enough, that you are essentially overtrained. Okay, plain and simple. Your daily life makes you overtrained. You do too much, don't take in enough, your body's overtrained. You put steroids in that, it allows you to recover faster. You will gain muscle based on the fact that you're not lifting weights, but you're still doing your daily activities, and that androgen receptor is flipped, and all of a sudden now it can use protein differently. It uses protein more efficiently to build muscle. So now you have a person who's sitting on the couch and gained 4 pounds of muscle in 12 weeks. And they go, wow, see, steroids work. Now, do the same thing with that person with the same dosage of steroids without working out for a year. You will watch that muscle go up like it did in that study, and eventually when the body adapts and figures out that it really doesn't need it, it will actually lose that muscle. You watch the muscle come back off in the long run. It's a use it or lose it. Your body does not carry extra muscle or extra fat in it unless it needs it. And there has to be something coming in to be able to do that. And that study, no matter how many people like to point at it, is flawed because they don't do it over a course of 5 years to see what happens to that person's muscle. Unless they start lifting weights or they change the stimulus, that muscle will come off the body because the body doesn't actually need it. It will adapt and it will adjust and it will go back to homeostasis and literally lose the muscle again. So then it would be like, well, steroids make you lose muscle. That's what the study would show. But they stopped the study at a certain amount of weeks and said, here's the data that we have. That's all we need. But the scientists didn't stop to think that the body adapts. The way it adapts to gaining muscle is an adaptation. As it continues to do the same thing, we even know that if you take the drugs too long, the body adapts to the drugs by burning out the receptors and basically building up a tolerance for the drugs, just like alcohol or anything else, and then those drugs don't work anymore. So if the body adapts that way, why didn't you continue the study to show that the body adapts the opposite way when it doesn't actually need that protein, the muscle protein synthesis to build the muscle? It didn't actually need it. They didn't do that. So that's muscle protein synthesis happening, okay? Continuous muscle growth happens when the body is challenged to the point where there's a metabolic stress that guarantees. Now, there are a lot of people out there that say, well, I don't train to failure and I get great results. No, you haven't gained any fucking strength. You haven't gained any muscle. And if you have, what you've been doing is doing a shitload of volume for 2 hours, then basically 3 sets that are actually the ones that are making you grow if you're pushing yourself hard enough on them. But even then, you're only doing that once in a while. You're not actually getting to stimulate the muscle to the point where it'll grow guaranteed every fucking time. And then you get slow gains. You say, I'm a hard gainer, or I get okay results, or whatever. And then you watch someone like me train, and you're like, what the fuck? How do you do that so fast? It's going to be a drug. No, you push your body to the point where it has to adapt, causes that metabolic response to build muscle, to be stronger, to be bigger the next time, continuously, every time you're in the fucking gym. And I'm not talking about, I work out hard. I'm talking about fucking failing. And not, it hurts, I stopped. I'm talking about fucking failing. That is the one way, period, and hands down, that the body adapts. Guaranteed every single fucking time by making the muscle fail. And I'm not talking about positive, negative, static muscular failure, because that will zap your central nervous system, which is a whole nother story in itself. But I hope that this clears up a little bit about the difference between muscle protein synthesis and continuous muscle gains and how muscle is built. You will not build muscle unless your body has to adapt. It has to adapt in order to build muscle. Large amounts of muscle, any amount of muscle. It may build muscle due to protein synthesis for a short period of time, but when it figures out that it doesn't need it, it will go back and lose that muscle. Just like when you come off drugs. When it realizes that if you're taking steroids and you go off steroids, doesn't matter what you take to try to keep your muscle, your strength is not going to be the same. The stimulation to the androgen receptor is not going to be the same. No matter how hard you train, you will not stimulate the muscle the same way. You don't have the ability to stimulate the muscle the same way as when you were on drugs, and you lose the fucking gains, no matter what anybody says. And that's the bottom line, because that's a fucking stupid catchphrase. But that's how it works, period. BioStraining@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. www.biostraining.com is the blog, and where that's how it works. Muscle protein synthesis and continuous muscle gaining bicep, and we're out.